I forget how many somethings.
2024.
I'm old veterans, but it was pretty cool. This Sabrina girl carpenter. She said something like she was like, "Thanks, that's cool." She's really cool.
You won't believe the latest twist in the Sean Diddy Combs saga, and this one has fans of Britney Spears doing a double take. In a stunning development, Britney's name has now surfaced in connection with Diddy's mounting legal troubles, thanks to testimony from his former partner, Cassie Ventura. During her statements in the ongoing federal investigation, Cassie brought up a specific date, September 8th, 2007, her 21st birthday. The scene? Las Vegas. The guest list? A who's who of Hollywood royalty. Britney Spears, fresh off her split from Kevin Federline and trying to reclaim her career, was spotted partying alongside Diddy, Paris Hilton, and music producer Dallas Austin at the packed Pure Nightclub. Later that same night, they were all seen at an after-party hosted by 50 Cent at the Hard Rock Hotel.
Cassie just name-dropped Britney Spears in the Diddy trial as she was on the stand testifying. She said, Sean was there and he brought Dallas Austin, Britney Spears. I think those were the two that stand out to me. Now, what she is talking about is her 21st birthday party that took place on September 8th, 2007. The picture is right above. You see Britney with Diddy, Paris Hilton, and then there's Dallas Austin next to her.
Now, here's where things take a turn. This wasn't just any wild night in Vegas. It happened literally hours before Britney's now infamous performance at the MTV Video Music Awards, the one that would go down in pop history for all the wrong reasons. She was set to launch her comeback with Gimme More, but instead, what we saw was a dazed and disconnected Britney fumbling through her routine while the world watched in disbelief. But what really happened the night before? According to several insiders, Britney didn't spend that evening quietly rehearsing or resting. Instead, she was reportedly swept up in Diddy's legendary party scene, a blur of champagne, flashing lights, and endless celebrity chaos. And it gets darker. Sources close to Diddy now claim he's been privately bragging for years about an alleged hookup with Britney that night. One associate said he often told the story in a vulgar, boastful way, laughing about her behavior and using it to boost his playboy persona. Photos from the event have since resurfaced, showing Britney looking dazed, wearing sunglasses indoors, and holding onto Diddy for support. Witnesses say she seemed confused, overwhelmed, and deeply vulnerable, a far cry from the pop powerhouse. Fans remembered. And then came September 9th, the VMAs. Britney took the stage, but something was clearly wrong. She appeared shaky, lost in her own head, and barely lip-synced through the performance. It was heartbreaking. Critics slammed her. Headlines were brutal. What was supposed to be her triumphant return became a media feeding frenzy, with her personal struggles now on full display.
This is gonna blow your mind. This is the evolution of Britney Spears from 2000 to 2024. And look what happened in 2003. Who's this guy? Anyone recognize him? And also pay attention to what happens in 2007. Now, instead of showing a photo at the end of 2024, I'm gonna show you a video of how she looks now as of a month ago, so stay tuned. But here, the famous Meltdown 2027, I also found her reportedly going to Diddy parties in 2007, and then the whole situation. Coincidence? I don't know, you be the judge. Either way, she's looking pretty good afterwards, as if, she survived Diddy.
Years later, in her 2023 memoir, The Woman in Me, Britney opened up about the chaos of that night. She confessed she hadn't slept, had a panic attack before going on stage, and had begged not to perform only to be pushed into it anyway. "I knew it was going to be bad. I was a mess," she wrote. But there's a piece she left out, maybe because even she hadn't fully processed it. Now, with new details emerging, people are asking, could that wild Vegas night with Diddy have played a part in Britney's breakdown? Was she just another casualty of a party scene that chewed up and spit out the very stars it claimed to celebrate? At just 25, Britney was already drowning in personal battles, addiction, custody issues, relentless media pressure. Meanwhile, Diddy was at the top of his game, throwing parties with no boundaries and surrounding himself with fame, money, and power. The events of that night are being re-examined with fresh eyes, and it's raising some serious questions. Was Britney just trying to hold it all together, caught in a whirlwind far bigger than herself? The truth may finally be catching up to everyone involved. That night in Vegas wasn't just another wild celebrity party. Looking back now, it might have been a serious turning point, especially with everything we're learning about Diddy. Fast forward to today, Diddy's at the center of a massive legal storm, facing federal charges that include sex trafficking and racketeering. And with each court hearing, more disturbing pieces of his past behavior are being exposed. One of the most chilling threads, Cassie Ventura's testimony, the same Cassie who dated Diddy for years and who says that night, her 21st birthday in 2007, was when it all began. According to Cassie, Diddy didn't just show up to her party, he brought people with him. Britney Spears' music producer Dallas Austin, all captured in photos from that night at Jet nightclub. The same night Britney was spotted looking fragile, glassy-eyed, and clinging to Diddy. Suddenly, this isn't just about Cassie's story anymore. Britney was there too, at the very start of what Cassie says became an abusive and controlling relationship. Cassie's claims are horrifying. She accuses Diddy of rape, manipulation, and coercing her into dark, drug-fueled sexual situations with strangers, situations she says started that very night. Makeup artist Mila Morales and Diddy's ex-assistant George Kaplan have backed her up, describing years of physical abuse and emotional control. One incident in 2015 even involved Diddy allegedly attacking Cassie in front of others on a private jet. And now, people are looking at Britney's presence that night through a different lens. Could she, already vulnerable and battling personal demons, have been exposed to something far more toxic than we realized? There's no evidence suggesting Britney was involved in anything criminal, but the fact that she was surrounded by these same people on the eve of what would become her most infamous public meltdown at the VMAs is hard to ignore. In her memoir, The Woman in Me, Britney talks about being exhausted, panicked, and forced to perform when she wasn't ready. But she never mentions Diddy. Maybe she chose not to. Maybe it was too painful. Either way, those old grainy photos now carry a much heavier weight, showing a pop icon spiraling in the orbit of a man now accused of deeply disturbing crimes. As Diddy's empire crumbles, the glossy image he built over decades is falling apart. The testimonies and evidence piling up are painting a much darker reality, and suddenly, things he once bragged about, like his stories involving Britney Spears, don't sound like harmless gossip anymore. What once passed as just crude, industry chatter now feels chilling, like clues we all missed. And Britney, she's no longer just seen as a pop star caught in her own storm. There's growing suspicion that she might have been one more victim in a powerful hidden network of abuse and control, a system that protected the powerful and preyed on the vulnerable. Now, investigators are starting to zoom in on the connections that tie Britney to some of the same people and entities now being scrutinized in Diddy's case, especially TriStar Sports and Entertainment Group. That name may already ring a bell for anyone who followed the Free Britney movement. TriStar was deeply involved in managing Britney's finances and had a major role in orchestrating the conservatorship that controlled her life for over a decade. But here's where it gets even more tangled. Diddy was also a longtime client of TriStar. The company's founder, Lou Taylor, met Diddy back in the 90s, and their working relationship spanned decades. Documents confirm business ties, contracts, addresses, you name it, connecting Diddy directly to Lou Taylor and the TriStar office. Even more disturbing, Robin Greenhill, another key TriStar executive, is now being called out by name in a separate lawsuit. According to explosive court filings by producer Lil Rod, Greenhill wasn't just crunching numbers. She allegedly helped coordinate hush payments to victims and cover up abuse. And remember, Greenhill is the same person Britney's former security staff accused of monitoring her every move, reading her texts, tapping her phone, even placing recording devices in her bedroom. These allegations were dismissed at the time, but now, in light of everything surfacing around Diddy, they're being reevaluated.
So while I don't believe that we ever got to see true justice for Britney Spears, maybe we'll at least get to see some retribution for TriStar, Lou, and Robin Greenhill.
The Department of Justice recently hinted at how Diddy allegedly relied on others to help isolate and silence his victims. They didn't name TriStar directly, but the overlap in people, power, and tactics is impossible to ignore. The big question now, was Britney's conservatorship just another layer in a much bigger and more sinister operation? Now, the federal indictment against Diddy is shedding even more light on just how deep this goes. Investigators have reportedly sent out over 300 grand jury subpoenas and gathered evidence from more than 100 different companies, including Diddy's own businesses, and intriguingly, a wealth management firm. While the indictment hasn't dropped names yet, many believe that firm is none other than TriStar. If that's true, TriStar and its key players, Lou Taylor and Robin Greenhill, could soon be facing serious legal heat. Subpoenas and document reviews suggest the walls are closing in. After years of dodging accountability, they may finally be forced to answer some tough questions under oath. For Britney's supporters, the possibility that TriStar is now in the legal crosshairs is a mix of relief and heartbreak. On the one hand, it feels like long overdue justice. On the other, it reopens old wounds, reminders of how Britney's pain was ignored or outright enabled by those who were supposed to protect her. Since being freed from her conservatorship in 2021, she's been trying to quietly rebuild her life. But now, her name is being pulled back into a storm she never asked for. And the more we learn, the harder it is to believe that Britney was just a bystander in all this. Her ties to some of these same individuals, her presence at pivotal moments, especially that infamous night in Las Vegas in 2007, paint a much more complex picture. For years, her breakdown was labeled a personal crisis. But what if it was actually the result of being surrounded by people with far more sinister agendas? Diddy's crumbling empire is being exposed as a decades-long pattern of control and abuse, and if Britney was caught up in that, even tangentially, it changes everything. The way Diddy reportedly spoke about her, the timing of Cassie's manipulation beginning the same night, and his now well-documented tactics of dominance. It's all deeply unsettling. If Britney was just one more woman swept into that toxic orbit, we have to ask, why didn't anyone stop it? Why were the warning signs ignored? And how did someone already teetering on the edge end up in environments that only pushed her further toward collapse? These are the questions we can't afford to leave unanswered anymore. The trial is just getting underway, and already it's shaping up to be massive. Dozens of witnesses are lined up, from former employees to law enforcement and, potentially, other victims. The investigation is expanding fast. Britney Spears was only briefly named in Cassie's testimony, but as the timeline unfolds, the court might revisit other moments where Britney showed up at Diddy-hosted events. Now let's be clear, Britney isn't on trial. She hasn't been accused of anything. But the worry is that her name could get dragged back into headlines for all the wrong reasons. Again, fans are holding their breath, fearing the media won't treat her like the survivor she is, but instead will sensationalize her pain just like they've done before. What makes all this even more heartbreaking is the idea that Britney may not have fully understood, let alone been able to speak about, what really happened to her. Let's not forget, during that period, she was trapped under a conservatorship that micromanaged every corner of her life, her money, her body, her relationships, even her medications. If that infamous night with Diddy in 2007 made her mental health worse, then it's fair to question everything we were told about why she needed that conservatorship in the first place. Maybe what looked like uncontrollable behavior was actually the result of deep trauma and manipulation, not a personal meltdown, but a response to a system that failed her at every level. Now, with prosecutors digging deep into Diddy's inner circle, there's a cautious sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the system that allowed this kind of abuse to thrive will finally be held accountable. And for Britney, who spent the last few years trying to rebuild and find peace, there might finally be a moment of truth. Not the kind splashed across tabloids, but the kind that acknowledges her humanity. Her public collapse wasn't just a messy chapter in pop culture. It was the result of something far darker, a toxic world where power protected predators, and young women were treated like property instead of people. As this trial moves forward, the spotlight is no longer just on Diddy. It's on the entire industry that let this happen. This isn't just about one man's reckoning, it's about revealing just how deep the damage goes. For Britney Spears, this may be another difficult moment in a life already full of them. But for the rest of us, it's a wake-up call. The stories we thought we knew were never the full story, and the truth might be more disturbing than we ever imagined.